In today's world, credit card fraud is a very important issue faced by banks. According to the US Federal Trade Commission, credit card fraud is ranked 1 in the identity theft category. In 2019 alone, 24.6 billion was fraudulently lost due to the credit card payment transaction globally. Card numbers got stolen in varieties of ways, including credit card security breaches at major retailers. And in most of the cases, bank is liable for paying the fraudulent amount to the customers. So, all banks must develop a delicate balance with the merchants between using safeguards to prevent fraud. To address this issue, we have developed a dashboard on Power BI which will help banks to identify their fraudulent transactions across different merchants. With the help of this data, specific to the transaction happened across US during the time period of 2016-18, we have developed a predictive as well as descriptive visualization report. The capture insights from the dashboard will concentrate on prevention methods and procedures that the bank can perform to limit credit card merchant frauds. The dashboard is going to help the bank's credit card department as well as the fraud prevention team to make measures and tackle fraudulent activities as well. These visuals can also help the bank to develop their yearly report as per the norms by the Federal Trade Commissions. Now, we'll show you the dashboard which we have developed on Power BI. The key findings from this graph is we are using 10,000 transactions which was made by 482 unique users who are using 500 unique credit cards. The number of fraud transactions overall is 2075, which is approximately 21% of the total transactions. States like California, New York, Texas, Pennsylvania, Illinois are more prone to frauds. In 2016, California was the city with highest number of frauds, followed by New York and Texas. Same patterns were followed over 2017-18 too. In 2018, the fraud number has increased for Illinois. A recommendation to the business would be the bank need to focus on the mentioned US states to identify the reasons which they help to reduce fraud ratio. We can do the same under fraud value. We can also showing that distribution across different states. The key findings would be 52 million in the total fraud transaction value, while the customer has done a total amount of transaction of 248 million. Here again, California and New York are more prone to frauds and have the highest fraud amount. In 2016, California was the state with highest number of frauds, followed by New York and Texas. Fraud value increased in Pennsylvania and Illinois from 2017 and 18 respectively. Moving to the next graph, which is distribution of fraud based on gender. We're showing a donut chart here. The key finding for the figure 1 you can see here. The gender distribution of the fraud, which shows female fraud are more than male frauds. But as we are not getting good picture of the fraud distribution, we should look one level down. Also, if see the age category distribution of the fraud in case of gender as male, opposed to the general perception of young people restoring to fraud, it can be seen that customer falling in the age bracket of more than 40 has the highest share among all the age categories. The recommendation to the business would be proper monitoring system should be adopted to keep track on their old accounted customer. Going forward to the next graph, which is showing the distribution of fraud based on credit limit. We're showing it in a bar chart. The chart shows a bar explaining the total number of fraud by credit limit. If we see the tooltip, we can see customer having credit card around $2,000. The number of fraud is very high as compared to the customer with high credit limit. The number of fraud is lesser in case of customer with credit limit more than $0.2 million. The recommendation to the business should be they should need to focus with low credit customer as the chances of defaulting on due payment of the credit bill is very high. In the next curve, in the bar chart we are showing the top 10 cities based on the number of frauds and transaction values. In this chart we can see the top 10 fraudulent cities in US with respect to the transaction value. It is interesting to note even though number of fraud in the state, Seattle is only 70. Still, the total fraud value and transaction value of fraud is high, indicating great loss. The bank should focus on the top cities where the losses on the basis of transaction value is very high. When looking into the distribution of fraud based on card family, we are plotting it across a horizontal bar chart. The chart represents the number of fraud based on the high type of card owner by an individual. In order of credit card limit, the platinum card has the highest credit limit, followed by gold and premium card. Also, in conjunction with the above interpretation, it can be inferred that the number of default by premium card holders is maximum, which further prove of the individual with less credit limit are more prone to default. The recommendation to the bank should be the policies of issuing premium card should be strict in order to have a check on the customer to avoid future consequences. Moving to the next tab, where we're showing the number of fraud cases by merchant in a tree map. The key findings should be, you can see that Mackey's record has the highest fraud transaction and is ahead of other by huge margin. On the positive side, Aldi, QVC, and Walgate record the least fraud transaction. The strategy to reduce the fraud counts can be suggested to other merchants and cities in order to reduce overall count. The recommendation to the business to be they should focus on the merchants like Mackey's and cities like California, NY, Texas, where fraud transactions are more. Moving to the next graph, which is a waterfall map, we are showing the number of frauds by merchant across different card types. You can see here the frauds by merchants showing rising trend in 2016 for many merchants. However, in 2017, subprime rose the highest with 37% fraud case alone. Quarter 1, Quarter 4 has contributed mostly to the fraud cases during all 3 years starting from 2016. A recommendation to the business should be they should focus on some cost type contributing the highest during the each years. Example, in 2016, prepaid card, student credit card contributing at least 20% each. This focus should be on implementing security measures for those specific cards and creating awareness among the students, body, and prepaid card holders regarding credit card measures and not fall to fraudulent traps. If we look for the fraud value and into the tree map by merchant, we can also find out that Mackey's, Nordstrom, TJS, Royal Holders, Delhaize, and Whole Food Market contributed 18% of the total fraud value during 2016 to 2018. Even through Ross stores, recorded second highest number of fraud transactions. Its fraud value is comparatively lesser than other merchants. A recommendation to the bank should be they should tighten their security measures in Mackey's, Nordstrom, TJS, Royal Ahol, Delhaize, and Whole Food Market. And since the fraud value is equally distributed among most of the merchants, the security system as a whole should be relooked. Looking to the last graph, which is fraud value by year and card type, we're showing it in a waterfall map. The key finding is we should focus on the secure credit card, which always comes with a collateral from the account holder. That's the reason there is a less number of fraud. There is therefore an attempt on fraud loss on the cardholder, which is evident from the chart. Prepaid cards has the highest number of fraud transactions, but transaction value is very less. Even the fraud transactions in student credit cards are less, which record the highest transaction value. A recommendation to the business should be they should create awareness among the student body and implement security measures to reduce fraud transactions. That is how we have helped the business to develop a dashboard going forward, which is going to help them to identify the fraud and take measures as per their need. Thank you.